Greetings. I am Tabin of A Mind Transformed, and this is Manna for your journey. Do you feel like you're in a fight? Do you feel like you're trying to stand strong in the face of opposition? Do you feel like you're doing everything you can to hold on to your sanity, hold on to your faith? You're struggling against the feelings of giving up and giving in, and you're praying, Lord, you need to move soon. God, you need to open the door soon. God, you need to make a way soon, because if you don't, I feel like I'm going to give up this fight. I'm going to let go of this struggle because I have no more fight left. If that's you, good. John 11 is a familiar story that tells us about Mary, Martha, and their brother Lazarus. Lazarus was ill, so Mary and Martha sent word to Jesus that he was ill. To them, the situation was dire. Lazarus was going to die. They needed Jesus immediately. And I always loved this story because John 11, 5 and 6 tells us that Jesus hears the story and that he loves Mary, he loves Martha, and he loves Lazarus. And he hears the urgent cry, the urgent plea for his help. And then he stays where he is for 2 more days. It's almost like the contrast. John sets us up by saying how much he loves them. And then he doesn't move. He delays heading to their situation for 2 more days. Just because it seems to be an emergency to us does not make it an emergency to God. What situation causes God to panic? What situation causes God to worry? When has God ever said, if I don't hurry up and move now, I may show up too late? The Bible tells us that at the mention of the name Jesus, every knee shall bow. Even time will bow when God says so. So Jesus, after 2 days, tells his disciple, let's head back to Bethany. His disciples have objections because they just tried to kill Jesus there, but Jesus is going to go anyway. The Bible lets us know that when Jesus arrives, Lazarus had been in the tomb for 4 days. He had already been dead for 4 days, buried when Jesus arrives. Mary and Martha both come to Jesus and say the same thing. If you had been here, our brother wouldn't have died. Now, first Martha comes, then she tells Mary, then Mary comes, and they both say the same thing. What if the greater testimony is not that God showed up right when you were about to give up, right when it looked like that situation was about to take you out of here, all the chips were stacked against you, the deck was stacked against you, everything was about to crumble and fall down, and then God showed up? What does that do for people whose their situation has already crumbled? Their world has already fell apart. How does God saving you from that happening be a testimony to them? But what if the greater testimony is that God showed up when it appeared you were already dead and buried? When it appeared that situation was already over? When it appeared that you had given up hope, it couldn't be saved, it was all done, ashes to ashes, dust to dust, it is dead and buried, nothing else can be done. There are times in our lives where we lose things that we feel like are precious to us, and we don't know how to reconcile that with our faith. So we wind up coming up with all these colloquialisms and these saying, well, if it was for me, God would have saved it. I guess it wasn't good for me. Or if God really wanted me to have it, he would have done something. But since he didn't, it's fine. I'm okay. But then secretly, we're not. Secretly, we're mad with God. Secretly, we're harboring feelings because God didn't show up. But the Bible tells us that when God shows up, he calls Lazarus out. And Lazarus comes out. Nobody cares what killed Lazarus at this point because he's alive once again. What if God's going to use your situation, use what's going on in your life to call you out when it appears that you are dead and buried and nothing could be done? And that greater testimony will cause all those around you to believe. It'll cause people to either get a relationship with God or deepen their relationship with God because of what God has done for you. I love the ending of this story because it shows us in John 12, the very next chapter, 6 days before the Passover, Lazarus, the Bible tells us Lazarus is reclining at the table with God. Lazarus is reclining with his feet up, relaxing and resting at the table with God, even though a situation had him dead and buried days before. Lazarus had a seat at the table with Jesus. But all it took was for him to appear to be dead and buried. God hears your prayer. His delay is not a denial. And just because it appears to be dead and buried doesn't mean God can't fix it. Oftentimes we pray for stuff from God, but all we really need to pray for is the presence of God to show up. Because when he shows up, he has everything we need. When he shows up, victory comes with him. Ways being made comes with him. Overcoming comes with him. All we need is to him show up. So it doesn't matter when God shows up. It just matters that he shows up. Well, I am Taven of A Mind Transformed. Thank you for allowing me to share a few minutes of your day. And this has been Manna for Your Journey. Be blessed.